Lord of Bhakti, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for joining the call today. We are very fortunate we have Her Grace Jayashri Dasi Mataji from New Vrindavan. And Mataji is going to enlighten us from Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 7, Chapter 15, and verse number 75 onwards. Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Let's take over the call when you're ready.
Good morning, everyone. Hare Krishna. Please accept my respects and obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the assembled devotees. Yes, I had so many links for Bhagavatam classes on my thing. I was not finding the right one. Sorry, a little late today. All right. Punjabi Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Nitai Gaur Haribo, Haribo, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari. Jai Om Vishnupat Paramahansa Parvajakacharya such is divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupat Paramahansa Parvajakacharya such is divine grace. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupat Paramahansa Parvajakacharya such is divine grace. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Kurta Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sri Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Jamuna Maya Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Right. Today is an auspicious day. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Srimad Bhagvatam. Oops. Canto 7, Chapter 15, text numbers 75 and 76. My Sanskrit scholar, are you there?
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna. You want me to read both together?
No, whatever, just one is fine.
Was fine.
You.
Okay. Hare Bol. You, text 75. Yam Nruloke.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yam Nruloke Bataburi Bhaga Lokam Punana Munayo Viyanti Yesham Grihana Vasati Sakshat Gudham Param Brahma Manushalingam. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yuvyam of all you Pandavas, Nirloke in this material world, Vata indeed, Puribhaga, extremely fortunate, Lokam, all the planets of the universe, Punaha, who can purify, Munaya, great saintly persons, Abhiyanti, come to visit just like ordinary persons, Yasam, of whom grant of the house of the Pandavas. Avasati resides, iti, thus, saksat, directly, Gundam, very confidential, param, transcendental Brahma, the Param Brahma Krishna, Manusya Ligam, as if an ordinary human being. Translation. Excuse me. My dear Maharaj Yudhishthir, you Pandavas are so very fortunate in this world that many, many great saints who can purify all the planets of the universe come to your house just like ordinary visitors. Furthermore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is living confidentially with you in your house, just like your brother. Purport. Here's a statement exalting a Vaishnava. In human society, a Brahmin is the most respected person. A Brahmin is one who can understand Brahman, the impersonal Brahman, but hardly ever can one understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is described by Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita as Param Brahma. A Brahmana may be extremely fortunate to have achieved Brahmagyan, But the Pandavas were so exalted that the Param the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was living in their house like an ordinary human being. The word Buri Bhaga indicates that the Pandavas were in the still higher position than brahmacharis or Brahmins. The following verse, Narada Muni repeatedly glorifies the position of the Pandavas. So the next verse, how wonderful it is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Param Brahma, Krishna, who is sought by great sages for the sake of liberation and transcendental bliss, is acting as your best well-wisher, your friend, your cousin, your heart and soul, your worshipful director, and your spiritual master. Purport to that verse. Krishna can become the director and spiritual master of anyone who is serious about getting the mercy of Krishna. The Lord sends the spiritual master to train a devotee. And when the devotee is advanced, the Lord acts as their spiritual master within his heart. Tesam satatayukaranam bhajatam purvakam tadatnam buddhi yoganam yenamam upachati. Those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Krishna does not become the direct spiritual master unless one is fully trained by his representative spiritual master. Therefore, as we have already discussed, the Lord's representative spiritual master should not be considered an ordinary human being. The representative spiritual master never gives any false knowledge to his disciple, but only perfect knowledge. Thus, he is the representative of Krishna. Krishna helps as guru or spiritual master from within and from without. From without, he helps the devotee as his representative. And from within, he talks personally with the pure devotee and gives him instructions by which he may return home back to Godhead. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksru Nalitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. We're born in the darkness of ignorance, but our spiritual master is kindly opening our eyes with this torchlight of knowledge. So we offer our most humble and respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such spiritual masters. So here we see Narada's talking to Yudhishthira and exclaiming how fortunate the Pandavas are, that they have the Supreme Personality of Godhead living in their house as their brother, as their cousin, as their friend, and how extraordinarily fortunate that is. And Prabhupada, in this last purport, he talks about the spiritual master revealing knowledge from without, I think it says director, spiritual master, and the Lord himself acts as a spiritual master from within. So in our situation, we don't have that one-on-one personal association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because of our good fortune, we've somehow or other come in contact with Krishna in the form of his pure representative or director spiritual master. And we've been given especially the foundation of devotion by the founder, Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada came at great austerity. It was a great austerity that he performed to come. And he opened the doors to devotional service. He set down a foundation of knowledge, of protocol, of devotional activities, of devotional guidelines. And he set up an organization to encompass all of those things in a protective house in which everyone could live. He founded an organization that has gone on to grow quite rapidly, actually, in a most beautiful way. And now we see the most wonderful temples and festivals and deities and deity worship and books. There's so many books, you couldn't even read them all unless you didn't do anything else. It's another type of fortune. The Pandavas had Krishna living directly with them. Of course, they were personal associates of the Lord. They're in a whole different category than us. We're kind of the beginners, the neophytes, the beginning stage of devotional service, most of us anyway. So we have this great opportunity to make some advancement in this life if we're serious, if we're sincere and serious. Prabhupada points that out so many times. One has to be sincere and follow. It's not that we're in this with this opportunity and it's just not going to change us just by doing nothing. We need to act on the good fortune that we have. I was reading about the personal associates of Krishna, and it kind of gives us a little bit of an idea of who we are and where we're situated in the scheme of things. The Nectar of Devotion that Prabhupada summarized, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in chapter 25, it's called Devotees of Krishna. It says a person who is always absorbed in Krishna consciousness is called a devotee of Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami says that all the transcendental qualities discussed previously are also found in the devotees of Krishna. The devotees of Krishna can be classified in two groups: those who are cultivating devotional service in order to enter into the transcendental kingdom, which is us, most of us, and those who are already in the perfectional stage of devotional service, as Srila Prabhupada was. And it goes on, a person who has attained the stage of attraction to Krishna and who is not freed from the material impasse, but who has qualified himself to enter the kingdom of God, is called a sadhaka. Sadhaka means one who is cultivating devotion to Krishna in Krishna consciousness. The description of a devotee is found in the 11th canto, 2nd chapter, verse 46. I mean, to me, it's amazing. First of all, it's amazing that Srila Prabhupada was able to, night after night, translate and give purports to these literatures. Now, he took Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is an accomplishment and a beautiful book by itself, and he summarized it with all of these amazing connotations from different places in our literatures with precision. He didn't just say, oh, well, somewhere here it says, and somewhere there it says. And I remember reading that it said somewhere. That's like some of us who give talks or talk about these scriptures. Here's Prabhupada. It's found in the 11th canto, 2nd chapter, verse 46. That's the Srimad Bhagvatam. Wow, what an amazing scholar, and how much knowledge Srila Prabhupada had. I mean, we have to remember he was translating up to his last breath. That is not an ordinary devotee. So he goes on to say, it is said there that a person who has unflinching faith in and love for the personality of Godhead, who is in friendship with devotees of Krishna, and who is very merciful to the ignorant, raising them to the standard of devotional service, and who is uninterested in non-devotees, is considered to be situated in the position of cultivating devotional service. Just that there is a very high position to be in. And we see that our, I'm sorry, I've got all this congestion somehow. We have a lot of pollen. We see that our whole movement is full of people like this that are endeavoring. They're on the path of devotional service, some stronger, some less strong, some more materialistic, some more focused and precision in their following. So we're in a house that Prabhupada built for everyone to live, with all of these different souls that are endeavoring for devotional service in one capacity or another. And sometimes there's conflict, of course, because we're conditioned souls, and there's misunderstandings. I was listening to a god sister of mine yesterday, and she was telling me how someone came over to our house, and all they did was criticize temple authorities. And she said, I finally just started yelling at him and told him, get out of my house. I don't want to hear your nonsense. These people to me are glorious. They're wonderful souls. She was so heavy with them. She kept saying, I kept telling them, stop what you're saying, stop, or get out of my house. And the person finally got it. But that person should have known better, that it's not our position. We may see the faults. I mean, we can't help but see the faults or someone else's unkindness to us or mistakes with us. But still, we need to understand where they're situated. They're on this path of devotional service. And they're making some progress, just like we are. Prahlad Maharaj goes on in this Nectar of Devotion that no one can attain the perfectional stage of devotional service without bowing down before exalted devotees. Learned sages like Markandeya Rishi attain perfection in devotional service simply by executing such regulated principles of service. A person achieving perfection in devotional service simply by the causeless mercy of the Lord is explained in the Bhagvatam in connection with the Brahmins and their wives who were engaged in performing yajna or sacrifice. The wives were favorable to Lord Krishna and immediately attained the ecstasy of love of Godhead. Their husband said how wonderful it is that although these women have undertaken no reformatory performances such as accepting the sacred thread, they haven't resided in monasteries of the spiritual master, and they haven't observed the strict principles of celibacy, nor have they undergone any austerities. They still have attained the favor of Krishna, which is aspired even by great mystics. Eternal perfection. Persons who have achieved eternal blissful life exactly on the level of Sri Krishna and who are able to attract Lord Krishna by their transcendental loving service are called eternally perfect. The technical name is Nitya Siddha. So we see, I was looking, I remember Prabhupada saying, and he actually says it in a lot of places, that Krishna never comes alone. Krishna is never alone. He's always with his associates. And in the Adi Leela, in the translation, Prabhupada says, the personal associates of the primeval Lord Krishna are his devotees, who are identical with him. He is complete in his entourage of devotees. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, Sri Krishna and his various personal expansions are non-different in potential power. These expansions are associated with further secondary expansions or servitor expansions who are called devotees. So when somebody gets to the platform of actually being a devotee, what is it said that Krishna says, one who claims to be my devotee is not, but one who claims to be the devotee of my devotee, he is my devotee. Because we're really not on the platform of pure devotional service. So we're not really, according to some of these verses, qualified to call ourselves devotees of Krishna. Although we say it lightly, the reality is someone who's actually a devotee of Krishna is a expansion or a secondary expansion of servitor expansion who's called the devotee. So we are certainly on the path. And the activities that Prabhupada has given us, of which we can choose which way we want to concentrate, hearing and chanting, maybe kirtan, maybe preaching, distributing books, doing work in the temple, sweeping the floor, serving the devotees in some capacity that are endeavoring for devotional service. But the servant of the servant. Sometimes we take it for granted and are easily, I don't want to say misled, but we're basically misled by the material energy. Because we're not on the platform of pure devotional service and we're not experiencing that higher taste all the time. In other words, we're not feeling free from material distress, and we're certainly not blissful 24/7. Sometimes we go off our path and, oh, well, maybe something else will make me happy. Disney World, a movie, eating a Karma candy bar, whatever. But what we're looking for is real. We just haven't attained it yet. But if we can continue learning, these books are so amazing. The Nectar of Devotion, I think, is one of my favorite books. Whenever I pick it up and read it, I always wonder why I don't read it all the time, every day. It is just such a book full of mellows and touches the heart. This purport, Prabhupada talks about Krishna become the director and spiritual master of anyone who is serious about getting the mercy of Krishna. The Lord sends the spiritual master to train the devotee. And when the devotee is advanced, the Lord acts as the spiritual master from within the heart. So Prabhupada said it many times, and he told me too, personally, which I've tried, but I know I've definitely fallen short, to be serious, very serious always. It's a dangerous place that we're in. The material world is a dangerous place. We know for a fact that today or tomorrow, anything could happen to us, or our friends, our loved ones, our family. We all have a tendency to build a world around us that we want to be a certain way. We want to always have a lot of money. If that's not there, there's distress. Oh, I lost my job. How can I make money? Our family, always in anxiety about the safety of our family. And then we're in anxiety about the safety of ourselves. You know, if this happens, if I get this disease, look, this person just got cancer, you know, diabetes. It's always what it says in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, that the living entities of this day are short-lived, they're misguided, they're unlucky, and above all, they're always disturbed. We're always disturbed because we know we're in a dangerous situation, but by Maya's grace and by habit from so many parent lifetimes here, we're always trying to make a permanent settlement and make a perfect situation in the place that we're at. And in some place, Prabhupada talks about it's like trying to build a house in the sand. We know the next moment, the waves of time will come and wash it away. And we shouldn't be, but we are surprised when something like that happens. It's just the nature of the place we are. Look at Prabhupada's example. His business was stolen several times. And I believe the last one was by his own employees. They stole everything in his business. And then his wife, with all respect to her, she would sell his books for paper so that she could get tea. And then he came over on a mission to follow his spiritual master. He had 2 heart attacks. He came on a cargo ship. Can you imagine? At 70 years old, I don't know how many are 70, but I'm over 70. At 70 years old, going on a cargo ship and experiencing extreme seasickness and then having heart attacks. You know, it's not like he got on a first-class seat on an airplane and flew over here. And there was all kinds of people with money to greet him. They bought him a beautiful temple. Nothing. Prabhupada had absolutely nothing. We were just in New York a few weeks ago, and we were on 2nd Avenue. And that wasn't the first place Prabhupada had. That was the first little temple storefront that they got. But he was there a whole year by himself, starving, walking the streets in the snow with a dhoti on, without proper clothes, trying to please Krishna. And this is a pure devotee. I mean, Krishna glorifies his devotees. And these activities of Srila Prabhupada only glorify him the more as to who he was and what he was able to do. If his life had not, Krishna had not made it like that, we wouldn't talk so much about Prabhupada's, it wouldn't just have such the impact if Prabhupada came over in a very wealthy way and had all this money and started a temple. To see the struggle and the determination that he had, and then the determination to deal with these 10th class people to build an organization that's so glorified now and so glorious. It's just to his credit. Like Krishna says to Arjuna, I've already killed these people. You're just my instrument. You know, so he glorified Srila Prabhupada. You see some of the older devotees. Srutakirti was just here. I think he's maybe here for a few more days. We're having transformed, I guess, old Vrindavan, the original farmhouse, the original new Vrindavan was a 100-acre parcel up on a hill that was landlocked. They had no electricity. I mean, that little electricity, they had 1 or 2 light bulbs. They had no heat. The road wasn't passable by a car. It was way up on a hill. And Prabhupada actually lived there for a whole month. I was fortunate enough to find pictures from the archives of Prabhupada up in the loft of the old Vrindavan temple. And New Vrindavan has fortunately finally renovated the building. All the old wood, as much as possible, the old wood, the old rocks, that were the foundation, these huge rocks, they're still there, but they strengthened everything with very expensive and very long-lasting different wood and things to make the building last for maybe another 100 years. So we are going to celebrate the old days of old Vrindavan and the fact that the building is now saved and renovated this coming Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So it should be wonderful. But Sri Kirsti is still here, and he tells so many different stories about Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada is glorified really a lot because Krishna made that arrangement. Because he's a pure devotee, he's somebody that always was thinking of Krishna on a mission. Prabhupada's life was a mission for Krishna. And especially in his older days when he was freed from obligations, who could compare to the life that Prabhupada lived? You know, such concentration. Srila Prabhupada could fit more in an hour than we fit in almost in the whole day. No, we're devotees and maybe we're trying to chant Hare Krishna, but we're really, and I'm speaking for myself here, very far away from the goal. You know, it's easy to kind of take for granted, oh, I've been around so long. Yeah, I've always chanted my rounds. Yeah, I live at the temple, or I go to the temple all the time. Yeah, I'm initiated by this person or that person. I'm safe. But forgetting that although we're in the association of devotees and we have the opportunity, still our spiritual advancement is in our hands. We have to, when no one else is around and there's no eyes looking at us to see what we're doing, that's when we need to be the most focused and realize that our progress in this life, this life is so short. I mean, I just met Srila Prabhupada, but was it just now? No, it was like 50 some years ago. And I'm already like 76. Who knows, today or tomorrow, I will be leaving this body. And it's a right in your face thing when you get my age. It's like, oh, okay, you see all these things happening, all these people getting very sick and can't walk. And, you know, it's like Prabhupada said, don't think this won't happen to you. Our lifestyle is conducive to becoming Krishna conscious, but taking advantage of that lifestyle instead of talking to someone, some Gramya Katha, or watching something, or looking at Facebook, or just calling someone to talk, you know. And as I say, I'm preaching to myself. It's so easy to get distracted and maybe not even realize that we're distracted. But we have this wonderful opportunity to make this advancement. I wanted to switch over here because it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur's disappearance day today. And also Gadadhar Pandit, I didn't realize that. It's a fast until noon, at least in my part of the world. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was an extraordinary person. Just his lifestyle, what he did and who he was. I mean, here's somebody who was not a renowned sage living in the forest with all kinds of time to worship Krishna. He was somebody who was a magistrate with the British government. He was a famous magistrate. My understanding is they built the railway to his door so he could go to work, and that he could try a case more precisely and quicker than anyone else. He would be out of the office way before everyone else. But he would get up early, he would go to work early, and he ate very little. He would spend so much time in the office, he would come home. It doesn't look like he was spending all kinds of time just hanging around with family. He was very focused on his work and then on his spiritual endeavors. He would take rest, like Srila Prabhupada, take rest and then get up. And he wrote the most beautiful poems and songs and books. In the Vaishnava songbook, there's a lot of his beautiful writings. And they're so deep. You know, they give us such an opportunity. So there's one that he wrote, Amara Jivan, My Life, from Saranagati. My life is always engaged in sinful activities without a trace of pious activities. I am always inclined to give great anxiety and trouble to other living entities. Was he like that? No, of course not. But it is the mindset of most people. For my personal sense gratification, I never reject any kind of sinful activity. I am not at all merciful. I see only to my personal interest. When others are suffering, I become very happy. I always speak lies, and if someone is suffering, that is very pleasant to me. Now, that might be someone on the very lower side of life, but we have to understand there are a lot of people in that category. Otherwise, how could somebody bully someone in school? Like my daughter, my granddaughter, she's 16. She's a beautiful girl. She's coming this weekend, actually. She's a beautiful girl. She's very slender. She's slender, but she's gorgeous. And in school, and she does her hair, she does her nails. She's in LA. She goes to an LA high school. And one day she came back in tears because some kids had yelled out to her, and I can't remember, there's a cartoon where they're all kind of ghosts. And there's one that she's really skinny. I don't remember, but they called her by that name. And she was just so hurt. It took quite a while. I mean, some of these children are they're like this person, become very happy when I see somebody's suffering. Some people, it's actually their pleasure. It took her a while to get over that. And then the other grandmother had written to me at this time, because teenage suicide is rampant. And she was telling me that some girl up where she lives, some of the kids in her PA class were bullying her. She was like 14. She killed herself. It's like, whoa, But Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, I mean, to us, maybe it'd be a little foreign, because personally, I'm not happy when I see somebody suffering. But he's talking like the general populace. These things are true. They're going on. As Prabhupada would see, these things are going on. Bhaktivinoda continues, I have lots of material desires within my heart. I'm always angry and deceitful. I'm captivated by subject matters of sense gratification and am almost crazy. My ornaments are malice and false pride. I was just speaking day before yesterday with a devotee, a disciple of Radhanath Swami. His name is Radhagiridhari. And he's a very wealthy businessman. He is the son-in-law of Nathji, who was one of the founding people of the Chowpatty temple, whose father housed Srila Prabhupada when he came to Bombay or Mumbai. And Nathji tells the story how when Prabhupada came, he stayed at their house. And his father was giving money to Srila Prabhupada. And he himself, Nathji, was following in personalist Swami. And he was all over the situation, why his father was giving money to Srila Prabhupada. He was, he just didn't trust it, the situation. And so Nathji himself would get into these discussions with Srila Prabhupada because his guru was an impersonalist that he was following, and Prabhupada was a personalist. So Srila Prabhupada defeated like they had discussions regularly, and Prabhupada defeated his guru's teachings. And so Nathji went towards bhakti, but he said, I tried to find fault with Srila Prabhupada because my father was giving him all this money. I was worried. So I tried to find the fault. And he said, I had to give up after some time. I couldn't find any fault with Srila Prabhupada. So this son-in-law of Nathji's daughter is Radhagiridhari. And he started a business that, many businesses don't work out. Anyway, he made a promise that half of his profit over his family's needs, he would give half of that to Krishna consciousness. And he became immensely wealthy. And he's always given half of that money to projects of Krishna consciousness, like the Eco Village. He's probably one of the main people that's given money, millions. We're talking millions. We're not talking hundreds of dollars. And so he had a discussion in the Prasadam Hall about doing business. He's retiring, but he wants to help other people that are in business dovetail their money in Krishna consciousness. I mean, there's probably not crores that we know, but there are people, and I know people that come here to the palace and stuff that have a lot of money and they don't know what to do with it. So he's interested in meeting those people that have a lot of money and showing them how to dovetail for their benefit their extra money into Krishna consciousness. He was talking about this one man. He was talking about this one man from Delhi, I think he was. I'm sorry, I'm really bad with details. Anyway, he said Krishna consciousness is such that you don't know when it's going to hit you. And this man, he was like just going to work and he heard some kind of a quote and it just like turned him around. It's like, yes, because people that are making money, sometimes Radhagiridhari said, it becomes like a game. They make money to make money to make money. It's like, how much money can I make? So they're totally absorbed in making this money and they don't know really what they're going to use it for. So this man, something turned him around towards Krishna consciousness. And he started using his money to build this. There's a famous temple in Vrindavan that he built. It's like if people are connected, people that have a lot of money are connected with the right person, they can start using their money for Krishna's service, which will help them and their future generations. Personally, my father had a friend who was, in his day, multimillionaire. And there's a Sherwin-Williams paint company, and there's another one, Gildan or Glidden, something like that. That was his friend's paint company. And his friend became a multimillionaire. But because he didn't know what to do with his money, he used it in the wrong way, and he spoiled his children. And they instead of taking to making money for pure activity that would help free up the world from so much difficulty, they had no mission with their money. So both of them became drug addicts, and they just spent their father's hard-earned money on horrible things. It's like unless somebody gets that direction, they don't know really what they need to do. So just letting you know that Radha Giridhari, I haven't looked at the website, but they have a website. Let me catch it here. It's Y Combinator. I don't know if it's spelled WHY, I didn't ask him, or Y, like XYZ Combinator. He said that was their website. But, it gives Krishna consciousness movement a bigger scope to touch more people. If people who have money, we give personally our little donation to the TOVP. Okay, I gave $108. Okay, I gave $2,000. Okay, I gave $5,000. But when you have people that have millions and millions of dollars and don't know what to do with it, they can be dovetailed in Krishna's service by someone like Radha Giridhari. And then they can make some progress. So here Bhaktivinoda Thakur's talking to the common person that has these tendencies. I am conquered by sleep and laziness, and I'm always averse to pious activities. But I am very enthusiastic to perform impious activities. I always cheat others for my prestige. I am conquered by greed, and I'm always lusty. And this is something Radha Giridhari was talking about. The more money one has, if they're not focused on Krishna consciousness or giving to some pious, pure activity, but especially Krishna consciousness, their false prestige and greed and lust grow. And then they become victimized by the situation instead of purified by the situation. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is just laying it right on the line. I'm so fallen, I have no association with devotees, and I'm always an offender. In my life, there's not a bit of auspicious activities, and my mind is always attracted by something mischievous. Therefore, at the fag end of my life, I have become almost an invalid because of all such sufferings. So this common person that he's talking about is a lot of people in this world. And Prabhupada's mission was to come and free them by giving them knowledge, right? So that's his mission. That's our mission. Somehow or other, find a way to touch the lives of these people with prasadam, with kirtan, with harinam, with festivals, with books. That's what ISKCON is for. And it's wonderful. And it saves these people from so much. I was just reading, It was talking about when someone makes progress in their life and then falls away. So they take birth again, and Krishna makes the arrangement for them to connect again at some point. Something connects them. Somebody says something, they pick up a book off a floor of a airport, they meet a devotee. Just you hear from Prabhupada's disciples, not that they're the most advanced, speaking for myself, but that they were obviously engaged somehow or other in the past. And by some arrangement of Krishna, they touched Krishna consciousness again and became enthusiastic and attracted. Prabhupada said that. He said, yes, you did so many unusual things in your youth, but when Krishna called, you came running. You know, it's true. You can see, if you live that way, you can see how it came about. Krishna just put out his line and we just started grabbing on, and it was taking us to Krishna's service. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, now in my old age, with no alternative, I have by force become very humble and meek. Thus Bhaktivinoda offers the sad statement of his life's activities at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada goes on and he gives a purport. This song sung by Bhaktivinoda Thakur is in Vaishnav humbleness. A Vaishnav is always meek and humble. So he is describing his life, the life of the people in general, taking himself to be one of them. He says that my life is always engaged in sinful activities. And if you try to find out, you will not find even a trace of pious activities, only sinful activities. I'm always inclined to give trouble to other living entities. That is my business. I want to see that others are suffering, then I enjoy. I mean, it's true. The poor common person without some spiritual consciousness is able to do anything, hurt anyone, kill any animal, raise animals to be slaughtered in a most uncomfortable lifestyle that they have. It's a horrible reality that we live in. So our good fortune is to be part of the Krishna consciousness movement. Arjuna and his brothers Yudhishthira, they were so pure and so in love with Krishna that Krishna stayed in their house as their friend. We're not in that position, but we're fortunate enough that we've made progress that Krishna stays in our house in the form of association and books and temples and prasadam. You know, we're fortunate. We're so fortunate. And like Indradumna Swami says, we want to spread that good fortune that we have. So we spend our time, we find a niche to do as much and get as much association as possible. So we have to glorify Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur for being the perfect seeming materialist by his way of life and family and work, and the greatest spiritualist with such humility to be able to take the time to give us so much mercy. So much mercy. He was a visionary, for sure. So I think I'll end there. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the Bhaktivinoda Thakur and the great devotees, Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, our grandfather, maybe your great-grandfather, and all glories to the assembled devotees and the Lord Chaitanya's beautiful Harinam movement.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavata Pranam, all glories to Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for this wonderful class and for your own, inspiration. You had so many reminders for us. I was just reflecting on the fact that when you spoke about um, initiation, also, I remember um, when we got initiated, we were told by many devotees that don't think of this as like the final step. It is a reason why it's called initiation.
Right.
So thank you so much for that reminder again. Mataji, I just had a question about when earlier in the talk, when you were talking about, one of your god sister and someone visited her and, they were chastising temple, I guess, the way they run temples or whatever. I just had a question pertaining to that. So, how do we protect ourselves from committing Vaishnava Aparad, Mataji? Because living in this world that we live in, we are so used to, name calling, criticizing people. So, how do we stop doing that when it comes to not just devotees, but in general? How do we work on that habit of ours and protect ourselves from committing any offenses? Because whether a person is following Krishna consciousness or not, um, the super soul is within everyone, correct?
Right.
So, that being said, we should ideally treat everyone who is not even following Krishna consciousness as a devotee because they all have the super soul in them. So, how do we safeguard ourselves by committing any offense to them, anyone in general?
Well, I think being aware of it is step number one. I used to be, I was a temple president here for some time. And, it was like the hardest service I'd ever done. Really, I was super busy, like 60 hours a week. I was also the head pujari at the same time. Don't ask me how that happened. But it was when we had very few people. And I was always in a hurry. And one of my god sisters and some devotees from Pittsburgh came. And I acknowledged them, and then I ran on my way. And she stopped me later. She said, "Don't you care what people think about you? Don't you care? They've come here from Pittsburgh and you just like dismiss them almost." And I started thinking about it, and I started thinking that I had, because of my own rush situation, I had a tendency to be very abrupt and short with people, not realizing how it was affecting them. I felt that I was right in doing because I was in a hurry to go to a meeting. I was late for this. There was something, emergency in the kitchen. I felt justified, but she was right. And I started thinking about it. And then I started catching myself before I did anything like that or said anything. I caught myself. I consciously, Prabhupada talks about the weeds. And like this god sister, she was talking to someone that had been around for a long time. It wasn't that he was a new devotee. And she was more adamant that he should stop what he was saying, because he should know better. And sometimes people just need a reminder. And I think she was strong enough with him that it was perhaps a reminder that you don't need to talk that way. So when you catch yourself, then you should stop. If someone else, people don't come up to me, or if they start, I find an excuse to go. If they start criticizing management, I've been in the management here. I know what it's like, and I used to have people criticize me, and I was like this innocent person trying to do a service that was given to me by Radhanath Swami. And I was doing my best, but people, I had someone come up to me and said, "The reason everything is going wrong here is because of you." And it was like it just crushed me. I thought, my God, I'm killing myself, and that's all you can see. So I started thinking that, I have to be careful what I say to other people because of the effect. When we find ourselves criticizing somebody, or there's a difference to find out a reality. This person is doing this wrong. He shouldn't be doing that. Like I was just called upon to deal with the case of someone who's really out of place, really out of place. So I have to see the faults. I have to understand the situation so I can help. But to, like, he was coming into their house and he didn't even know her. And he's going into a rant and a rave about the temple management. And she said, stop right there. Not in my house. I like these people. I appreciate what they're doing. I don't want to hear it. And he kept going. And she got stronger and stronger. And she finally got him to stop. It's like sometimes people get into the habit, especially when it comes to temple authorities, ISKCON, GBC, the GBC this, and this people that. It's like Prabhupada says the only way ISKCON will have difficulties from within. We don't want to be the cause of that type of weapon being thrown around. What happened to the Pandavas, the Kuru dynasty, right? They killed each other, right? They couldn't be killed by outside force, so they had to kill each other. Of course, that was Krishna's arrangement. But we don't want ISKCON to have problems because we're beating each other up. Radhanath Maharaj, I know, has given classes recently, a lot of classes about appreciating what we have and people and their service and what they're doing. And, instead of finding the fault, well, they're doing this wrong. Why aren't we finding what they're doing right? So we have to catch ourselves pulling the weeds. Along with our devotional creeper, we're watering the weeds. We're watering the weeds of complacency, the weeds of pride. Oh, I've been initiated for this long. I must be so great. We can puff ourselves up like Dr. Frog, and then we just like, because our false ego wants to be nourished by all of that. But we have to pull the weeds. When we see it, we have to pull the weeds. Along with purifying our hearts so that the weeds don't grow, we have to be vigilant. Otherwise, we become... I read a letter one time, and Prabhupada was saying that the temple president and the head pujari both left Krishna consciousness. And he said, they think they left of their own accord, but Krishna took away their taste. If you don't have a taste, you don't want to do devotional service. You want to go out and do all kinds of nonsense. We're here because we have a taste to hear. We have a taste to go to the temple. We have a taste for devotional service. And if our taste is gone, we're gone. So Prabhupada said, because of their offenses to the children, one of them, and the other one was his offenses to the women, their taste was taken away by Krishna. What greater punishment? You hurt your foot, you break your arm, that's punishment. But to lose your taste for Krishna consciousness, that's heavy. So we want to pull the weeds when we see we're doing fault finding, especially against devotees that are endeavoring. If they have those tendencies, if they're being aggressive and bad, like this one devotee in her house, he'll think about it again. He won't talk to me about it because I won't listen. I don't listen when people criticize the other devotees. I just find an excuse. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot, I gotta go. I don't have time for it. I don't play into that kind of fault finding. And if it's somebody I can't get away from, I'll just say, I see this about them. I see that they're at the program every morning, that they're trying. I see that they're, you know, one of the best financial people in our community, helping the temple. You know, you got to find the good and appreciate the devotees. Otherwise, who knows what Krishna's thinking about you? Like you say, he's in your heart.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you. And I was also appreciating, when you were talking about wealth accumulation. Because just few days back, my husband and I have been discussing about this, and um, in the world that we live in, it's very difficult to determine where to stop. So there were a lot of takeaways for me personally, Mataji, from your lecture. So thank you so much for that. Um, I don't have any further comments or questions, but just gratitude for your lecture. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much for your kind words. Okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam. Thank you so much for this nectar class, and I second Padmini Radha. There are so many takeaways from your class, and you always share so nice experiences and with Srila Prabhupada and your family experiences, and always mention about His Holiness Radhanath Swami. So thank you so much. We heard you after a long time. So welcome back.
I know. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It gives me an opportunity that's valuable for me.
Yes, Mataji, we are blessed to have you. And Mataji, would you please explain again about the festival at New Vrindavan is coming up?
Okay. Monday, June 30th.
Mm-hmm.
There's a dinner at 6 p.m., Harinam to Gornitai, and a kirtan in the temple at 8:30.
Uh-huh.
Tuesday the 1st, the main celebration. Mangalarti, greeting the deities, Srimad Bhagvatam, class by Srila Prabhupada, breakfast. Festivities begin at Old Vrindavan at 10 a.m. on Tuesday the 1st. Lunch at the temple, evening celebration continues at the temple. And then Wednesday the 2nd, closing. This is all at the temple, Mangalarti, Srimad Bhagavatam. There's a special breakfast only for people that are invited, and that's it. So it's mainly Tuesday, starting at 10 o'clock up at Old Vrindavan.
Okay. Old Vrindavan. Okay. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Anybody has any question or comment?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Madan Pranam to you.
Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Nice to hear your voice.
Nice to hear you, Mataji, after a long time. I think it's been like 6-7 months for me because I was out in India. And then when I came back last time, I missed your class. I was not feeling too well to join in.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, when I'm not well, I try to avoid medicine, but I take a little extra sleep and rest that recuperates my body. So, I feel less medicine, but just take a little extra. And morning naps are anyway very, very sweet, but we should engage in Krishna's seva. But sometimes, we need to sleep also a little bit.
Right.
Enjoy the morning sleep sometimes. So yeah, Mataji, very nice to hear your class today. And I like the point you mentioned about, the whole world is, these days, if any progress we see in our life, whether, we buy a new house or whether there's some marriage or anything, it is so hard. We have to be so silent because most of the world is not happy with the happiness that you're going through or the mercy in that sense Krishna is giving. So it's basically, we have to keep it so quiet, all the good news. You just can't share it, at least outside devotee circle, because that thing is going on. And how our acharyas have given this, the world is, actually we should be paro dukho dukhi, right? If we are unhappy, then unhappiness, some people should come to sympathize with us. But nowadays, when you're happy, people are jealous, envious, so we're just getting cut off more and more from the material world this way. So it's hard to preach also, because then you feel that people are mostly carrying this mentality, and how to live in this world. Any good news comes, you just can't share because there'll be 10 people envious of you. So, and I mean, I had not known this for a very long time, but like, you mentioned today, and but I keep it in my heart that yes, devotees are this way, but the material world is like that. And so much we learn from our acharyas. So thank you so much, Mataji, for mentioning that. And I don't know whether others face this or not, but like I'm uh, so much connected to people in my family and friends who are not devotees. So it's altogether different lifestyles they live in, where they're preparing them to come back again in the cycle of birth and death. Very nicely they're preparing, not bothering about the next life. So yeah, just some comments, Mataji, came to me, but thank you so much for your association, and hopefully we should have you, every month, once or twice. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so much for your appreciation. It's encouraging.
And also we are so fortunate that we are connected to you, because we have never seen in real Srila Prabhupada, but you are there. And when you said, oh yeah, I met Srila Prabhupada, he talked to me like this, it is so encouraging. It is like 100% proof that we only see Srila Prabhupada in his books, but through you we are who's actually seen Srila Prabhupada. It makes our Krishna consciousness more of a reality, more of that firm faith comes. And how you so nicely explained about Srila Prabhupada, what all he went through. I mean, it's like so much. Just one inspiration comes to me, how important it is to follow our Guru Maharaj. And also you mentioned about like although his wife was selling books and doing all that for tea and things like that. So we should not be discouraged if our spouse is devotee or not devotee. We should continue our bhakti, because like Prabhupada ji said, that we have to fly our own plane. I mean, sometimes situations are not very favorable with our spouses or whatever like that. And Srila
Right.
Prabhupada is the best example. He's the best example of how he, did all his duties, and then he left, leaving
Right.
his wife in the hands of the son. So,
Yes.
very, very idle example. Thank you so much for glorifying Srila Prabhupada. Our day is made today, Mataji, by hearing glories from you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Anything else? Anyone else? Or
Hare
we're
Krishna Mataji, Dandot Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for the wonderful class, Mataji. And today being a very auspicious day of the disappearance day of Gadadhar Pandit and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, thank you for explaining this wonderful bhajan. Mataji, the question is, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is in utter humility here. But at such a great acharya, if when he's so humble, won't neophytes like take it in the wrong way and think, oh, this person has all these in his mind, so I shouldn't follow him. So what what should we do as devotees, like when we present ourselves to regular people? It in the same mood of utter humility, or should we be in a more instructive mode to help them?
well, I think Bhaktivinoda Thakur was also preaching to people in an instructive mood, but his poetry and his songs were when he was by himself. In the early morning times, he was doing his writing, and he was writing for, it seems to me, for the purpose of future generations. I mean, he was the one who saw the temple in Mayapur. He was the one with the vision. He was a visionary. So I'm sure he knew that somewhere his writings would have a place in life. But who knows how he personally preached to anybody. He probably didn't start off by saying, I'm like the worm in the stool. He probably started from a different position. But when you learn from somebody like that, like you learn from Srila Prabhupada, and he's talking very high philosophy, but then when you see his personal life and see that when someone said, oh, what you think you're first class person, or when someone would maybe criticize him or say something, he would say, no, I'm just everyone's servant. Or he had a comeback of humility for sure, but he didn't start off like that. He didn't start preaching like, oh, I'm like the lower than the grass, and so you're going to learn from me. No, people aren't going to learn from somebody like that, most likely. But when they learn the knowledge and then see the humility of the person, because what they're used to is hearing from people who are maybe knowledgeable in the field of science or education, but they're also puffed up asses, right? So you find someone who's very extremely knowledgeable and you hear from him, and then you find out he's like standing in line in the bathroom at the 2nd Avenue Temple with the hippies to take a shower. You go, oh my God, he's so knowledgeable, he's so exalted, he's so pure, but he was standing in line out of humility to take a bath. And these hippies were dirty and stinky, and wow, he was cooking for them. It to me, it solidifies and multiplies the respect for him. But I don't think Prabhupada started preaching on that level, I mean, I didn't read Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Saranagati for years. I knew who he was. I knew Prabhupada said he was in the succession. He was a pure devotee. He was like our grandfather or great-grandfather. But I didn't realize that he wrote some of these things. Like, wow, that makes him even greater, to me anyway. That okay?
Yes, Mataji, thank you so much. Hare Krishna. It looks like the great acharyas, even though their mood is of utter humility, they come or act as if they are higher so that they can purify us. But their actual mood is of utter humility.
Right. When you met Srila Prabhupada, you could see he was a great person. It was just in his being that he was a great person. And the knowledge when he spoke was like volumes of knowledge went through you. It wasn't like most people that say something from the scripture, it's very linear. But when Prabhupada said the same thing, it was very deep. There was a lot of knowledge and things that went through your body, your mind, your intelligence. It's like, wow, that's heavy. That's a great person. He didn't have to say that he was a great person. There was no books or anything that said he was a great person, but he was a great person. So, but then you could also see his sweetness and kindness and humility. It just in his attitude, the way he said things. Like when I sat with him, he was someone, they finally came back from their Harinam and they offered him a plate of sugar cane. And I didn't eat sugar at the time. And he offered me some sugar cane. Okay, so from what we know now, here I am, a new person, sitting in front of a great exalted acharya who's written about and will be written about. And I'm this young girl, and he offers me sugar cane, and I say, no, thank you. I don't need sugar. So was his attitude like, what? I'm offering you sugar cane and you're not eating it? No. He just sat back, popped it in his mouth, and said, oh, in India we eat sugar. But when he said it, it was like all this knowledge went through my mind. It was like, yeah, sugar is just natural. What's wrong with sugar? It's like, wow, okay. And then when I walked out of the room, the same plate was sitting on the ground outside the door. And just that few words, oh, in India we eat sugar, had so much impact on me that as soon as I stepped out of the door, I saw it, I picked it up and I started chewing it. But of course it had been chewed already. So So maybe it was my good fortune. I didn't take it at the time. But I'm just saying his attitude was, you know, like Radha Giridhari was saying the other day about the wealthy people, that he deals with a lot of wealthy people. I mean, and not just hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're talking about people with millions and millions and millions and billions. And a lot of them can be very self-righteous, you know, oh, I've done this, I'm so powerful, I'm so great, I've made all this money, everyone else doesn't fit into my category, I'm special. You know, there's a certain attitude. But Prabhupada, he was so, and apparently Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so great. But you didn't see that he thought that he was great. The attitude that comes along with pride and arrogance and self-righteousness was not in Prabhupada. A great person is known by the absence of these things, not by the accomplishments only. Okay.
Yes, Mataji, thank you so much. I've heard that, Uttama Adhikari sees everybody the same, and then in order to preach, they come to the Madhyama Adhikari stage intentionally, because, in any person, even devotees, they sometimes are very boastful. Oh, I could do this, I did this, I did Nirjal, I did every Ekadashi, I do Nirjal. So they're trying to, subtly praise themselves all the time.
Right.
But it is nice to see like how the great exalted Vaishnavas are totally in a utmost state of humility, and even comparing themselves with the regular persons who are not at all in Krishna consciousness, because they feel they're part of mankind, and everybody has the propensity to do things like that. Thank you so much.
We're quite contaminated, you know. We have all these faults. But that's okay. We're in the shower trying to get clean.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else? Anything else?
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna for enlightening us.
You're welcome. My little attempt. All right.
Okay.
So
Now the question, we can close the call.
yeah.
Vanchakalpatarubhishya kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava.
Vaishnava ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Jai. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Jayashri Mataji ki jai.
Hare Krishna. And see you next time.
Yes,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for association.
Pranam. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you.
Okay. Hare Krishna.